our last set of notes for Unit 5 are Systems of Inequalities word problems. So we've already done equation word problems, and these will set up very similar, only now you're going to have inequalities, so you have to graph and shade to find some possible answers. So again, a lot of these are going to look like how many and how much. So we have two different types of things we need to make these tortillas. We have flour and we have cornmeal. So our first thing I'm going to pick out is that it says at least 6 pounds. So I'm going to do x plus y greater than or equal to 6. Then our how much does it cost? Well, flour costs $1.50, so $1.50x. Cornmeal is $2.50, so $2.50y, less than 25. So now you're going to graph these. So this one, when I solve for y, I get y is greater than or equal to negative x plus 6. You would subtract the x to get it to the other side. The other thing when we graph, we need to label our x and y axis. So since x has $1.50 with it, that's flour. Then our y axis would be cornmeal. Specifically pounds of those two things, but if you don't want to write that all out, that's fine. So negative x plus 6 means I start up 6, then down 1, right 1, and I'm just going to continue it all the way down till I get there. So I connect my dots. Now this time I'm not actually going to extend my lines and put arrows on it because that would give us negative, and you can't have negative pounds. So that's all that you need to draw for that one. It's a greater than, so we would shade up above that line. For the bottom one, if I solve for y, the first thing I need to do, I'm going to do 1.5x to save myself some room. So I have 2.5y is less than negative 1.5x plus 25. Divide by 2.5 and write it up above. Y is less than, when you do negative 1.5 divided by 2.5, you get negative 0.6. Change that to a fraction, negative 3/5 x, and then plus 10. So you might want to do some work off to the side or some other on another sheet of paper. So I start up 10. And then down 3 and right 5. So these are actually not going to cross, and that's okay, because we're not looking for a certain ordered pair where they cross. So if you extended the x-axis, it would hit there. This is a less than. Sorry, I forgot to make my line dotted. It was strictly less than, so it should be a dashed or dotted line. Then less than, so down here. So once you have them graphed and shaded, it wants you to write out two possible solutions. So you are picking any ordered pair in your shaded region, or it could even be on a solid line. You could not pick this dot per se because it's on a dotted line, but you could pick this dot if you wanted to. So I could say 5 pounds of flour and then 1 pound of cornmeal. So you can pick ones that are on the actual line as long as it's a solid line. You can also just pick one anywhere inside of there. So if I pick that one, that would be 4 pounds of flour and 5 pounds of cornmeal. So make sure you write out specifically what you are using for your answer. All right, so same thing for number 2. We have seafood, perch, and salmon. All right, so right away I'm going to put my perch on the X. and my salmon on the Y. So at least 50 pounds, X plus Y greater than or equal to 50. And then purchase $4, so 4X plus 3Y. Cannot spend more than 240, so that's going to be less than or equal to 240. Usually when I do these problems, I actually hope that we can do X and Y intercepts, and we can for this one. Now, obviously we can't get to 50. So on this one, we're going to go by tens. So that's really important when you write out your answers in Part B. Okay, so instead of counting by ones, we're going to count by tens to make sure everything fits. So if you remember X and Y intercept, you don't have to do this. I just think it's easier. If you cover up the Y, it says X, we're just going to put an equal sign, 50. So in our case, that's going to be over by 5. So you're going to put a dot at X equals 5 instead of 50 because we're counting by tens. All right. Then I do the same thing. Cover up the Y, or sorry, cover up the X, and it says Y equals 50. So I go to the Y and I count up 5, put my dot, connect my lines. It was a greater than or equal to, so I would be above that line. I can also do that for the bottom equation. Again, if you would rather solve for Y each time, that's fine. But your intercepts, again, cover up that one. And it says 4X equals 240. So then I divide, and I get X equals 60. So that would just be 6 on our graph. Then I can do the same thing, cover up the X, and it says 3Y equals 240. So I divide, and I get Y equals 80. So that would be 8 on our graph. So to me, that's easier than finding the slope and everything, but it is up to you, whatever you would prefer. So now I have that. I connect my dots. This is a really close one that we're going to have to connect. That's a less than one, so we need to be shading in between. So here's where you have to be careful when you are writing your answer out, is that if we look at an ordered pair that's inside, so I'm going to use this one right here. That's the ordered pair, 2, 4. So you want to just say 2 pounds of perch, but remember we're counting by tens. So we're going to have 20 pounds of perch, and then 40 pounds of salmon. All right, so just make sure when you do this, we're counting by tens, so not 2 and 4, but 20 and 40. All right, to save time, I'm not going to pick another solution, but again, you can pick actual ones on your lines, or you can pick ones in between. Number 3 is very similar. Okay, when we have these large numbers, you're going to have to count by something other than ones. So we have at least 20 ads. X plus Y is greater than or equal to 20. And then we have $30 for a weekday plus $50 for a weekend. And we're going to spend at most, so less than or equal to, $3,000. So I'm going to put weekday for my X and weekend for my Y. So again, I'm going to use intercepts. Even if they don't come out to nice numbers, as long as they fit on your graph, that's all that matters. So even if you get a fraction, because we don't have to be exact when we're graphing these, because we're finding where they overlap, not an actual ordered pair. Okay. Again, I'm going to have to count by something other than ones. So we're going to decide that after we find all of our intercepts. So I'm going to find my intercepts first before graphing. So again, if I cover that up, I get x equals 20. Cover that one up, I get y equals 20. So we know we need a 20 and a 20 to fit. Down here, if I cover up the y, I get 30x equals 3,000. Divide by 30. And x equals 100. So we know we need to get all the way to 100 on the x. And I'm going to do the same thing for the y's. Cover up the x, and it says 50y equals 3,000. And I divide, and I get 60. So I'm going to, again, count by tens. I need to get 20, 20, 60, and 100 in there. So I'm going to count by tens. So first one is 20 and 20, so that means 2 and 2. Connect, that's a greater than, so we're going to go above. Our other one was 100, so that's going to be 10. And then 60, so that'll be 6. Connect those, solid line, less than or equal to, so down here. So you have lots of different options for what you could choose. All right, so if I just choose one of them, I'm going to choose this one right here, 3, 2, but remember that means 30 weekday and then 20 weekend. So not 3 and 2, but 30 and 20. So when you do these, again, graph them, whether you want to use intercepts or solve for y, find your shaded region, and then you need to find 2 possible solutions. Make sure you label them and be careful if you're counting by something other than 1.